Hey there fellow Planeswalkers, it's Steve for Collector Mania. We're continuing on with our Dominaria Commander deck tech series. Today we're going to take a look at Naban, Dean of Iteration. So we've got a 2/1 human wizard for a colorless and a blue that says if a wizard entering the battlefield under your control causes a triggered ability of a permanent under your control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So overall pretty exciting. I actually really love the symmetry in the artwork here and the symmetry in the ability. That's pretty cool, and a little bit of flavor in the art there. Overall, I wasn't that excited about this commander until I actually started building the deck, and then I started realizing the power that this card actually has. I know some people are actually trying to brew it for like 1v1, stuff like that, but I actually stuck to multiplayer commander for this guy. Mono blue has always been kind of a conundrum. I mean, there are a few ways to win and they're really good, so a lot of people usually play them, and we do have some of those generic blue win conditions in here, but I kind of diverged a little bit and put some stuff in here that I've never actually played with, so this might actually be one that I try out in real life. We'll see. I don't know. It's kind of expensive, so we'll see what happens there. Of course, the first thing that comes to most people's minds are like Archaeomancer and Snapcaster Mage. And those are two really good choices, but you really have to dig deeper into that to find the true synergy of this commander. So hopefully this deck tech will illuminate you guys to a little bit of that. So anyway, with that, let's break into the deck here. So of course we've got a Baral, Chief of Compliance. We have a few instances and sorceries that we want to reduce the cost on, plus Wizard Tribal. It would be bad for us not to run this guy. I mean, he's just amazing. He does everything we want him to do, except for having an ETB effect, really. Harbinger of the Tides. This is one of the other first cards that I thought of instantly when I saw this guy. Returning two tapped creatures to their owner's hands, actually pretty good. It's a pretty cheap bounce spell, and I've loved this card ever since it's been printed. It's pretty cool in my opinion. Great merfolk. We've got, of course, Snapcaster Mage, one of the highlight cards in my opinion, although the more you think about this card, I guess not as good as you thought it was, it ends up being. You do have to keep in mind that you have to have the mana to cast those two spells. Even though you do get two triggers, you still got to be able to cast them, so keep that in mind, but overall, good choice anyway. Then I've got a Vedalken Aethermage. So I've kept this in here mainly for the wizard cycling. There are a few key pieces, especially in our win cons, that we need to find that are wizards, so that's the main reason this is here, but it also can be just a flash and rattlesnake, or even a way to bounce back a sliver if you happen to run up against that in our play group. Laboratory Maniac, this is one of our generic ways to win. It's not what I'm shooting for, but if I have to, I will, pull the trigger on this and mill myself out. I've got a Patron Wizard, another new card that I haven't actually played with, so 3 blue, 2/2. Tap and untap wizard you control, counter target spell unless its controller pays a colorless, so not bad, interesting ability. I love that this guy looks like a pirate / rock star, so that's also interesting. He should be legendary, really. Portal Mage, a great way to redirect 2 attackers with Naban on the board. Sage of Fables, a great way to stack up counters on our creatures, essentially. There are a few. There's one that we're going to get to. Actually, I might as well turn over right here to our Evolve guy. Essentially, this is a way to gain control of creatures. It's going to work really well with the other card, so hopefully we have the two of them together. I've got a Treasure Mage, so we do have 2 really good targets for this, but that's it. So once you've found those targets, there's no reason to recur this guy. It's kind of a non-bow, really, but it works. It finds us our pieces that we need. Trinket Mage, once again, this is really in here just to find Soul Ring. I know that's pretty, narrow, but I like Soul Ring that much, especially in a monocolored deck. It definitely makes sense to have it in here. Trophy Mage, now this, on the other hand, finds a lot of things. As soon as we get to the artifact section, you'll see most of them, but yeah, this card is definitely necessary, and being able to trigger it twice and get 2 of the artifacts that we're after are really important. I've got a Vendilion Clique. Of course, we can kind of use this a little bit more sparingly, so I know there's always that argument of, do I use this on myself or on my opponent in 1v1 all the time, but really with Naban on the board, you can choose to do it both ways, so you can even choose 2 of your opponents, depending on what you want to do. Really interesting to include here. Then I've got, of course, Archaeomancer. This is probably my favorite one. Being able to return instants and sorceries from my graveyard to my hand is what I really want to do on this deck, and Archaeomancer does all of that for me. Then we've got Master of Waves. I love the idea of being able to make a ton of tokens and then you know, if we can find a way to like get our Cage Sun and then be able to bounce this guy and do it again, like just make tokens and tokens and tokens, yeah, that's going to be pretty amazing. Plus the protection from red sometimes comes into play, so it's still important as well. Then we've got another new card, Naru Meha, I think that's how you say that, Master Wizard, so 2 colors, 2 blue. 3/3 flash. Whenever she enters the battlefield, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose new targets for the copy. Plus other wizards you control get +1/+1. So a wizard lord, plus we have quite a few spells that we want to do twice, of course. So if you think about it, you know, generic mono blue is running a bunch of extra turn spells, and we definitely are. So this card works great with that. Plus just sometimes you need counterspell backup to things, and you want to double counter things. And you know, there's a whole bunch of instances where this card can be really important. As far as this card as a commander, I actually think Naban's way better. I know that's kind of weird looking at the power levels of the two, but I think this card works better inside the deck. Then we've got a Riptide Director, so another new card that I haven't played, well, it's not new, but a card that I haven't actually had a chance to play with, so 2 colors, 2 blue. Has an activated ability, 2 colors, 2 blue, tap, draw a card for each wizard you control. As I talked about before, you can win with Laboratory Maniac. This is one of our big ways with this and like Allhammer's Archive or something like that. Works really well as long as we have a board presence. Other than that, it's just a good card draw engine. I've got Sower of Temptation. I love that you can now gain control of 2 creatures. That's pretty fun. And I've always loved this card. It's the artwork, everything. It's just really cool. And I've got Talrand Sky Summoner. So of course, casting our instants and sorceries that we have and making 2/2 drakes to defend ourselves or even win the game is also really important. Vincer Shaper Savant, of course. Being able to double trigger this guy when he enters the battlefield is amazing, and if we find a way to bounce him, that's going to be even better. I've got a Voidmage Husher. I left this in here purely because it's a gotcha card and that it can return itself to your hand. So if you haven't read it before, whenever you play a spell, you may return Voidmage Husher from or to its owner's hand. So now we have a wizard to continually cast with Naban as long as we have other spells to cast. Then of course Azami, we've got to have a way to tap our wizards and draw cards, of course. Scrivener, just a way to get back an instant. Supreme Inquisitor, so this is one of the other win conditions I was talking about that's kind of odd, but I think will actually work really well. So 3 colors, 2 blue, 1/3. Wizard Lord. Tap 5 untapped wizards you control. Search target player's library for up to 5 cards and remove them from the grave or from the game. Then that player shuffles his or her library. So essentially what we're trying to do here is get into an instance where we're either untapping all of our permanents all the time with like a Paradox Engine, or we're untapping all of our stuff with like a turnabout loop or something like that, and then we just exile everybody's libraries out of the game. So that could be a lot of fun. There are a few ways to achieve this, and we'll kind of get into that in a second here, but just an odd card that I had never actually really seen before, so I'm interested to try this one out. Then we've got Teferi, so a great way to make all of our opponents hate us. Arcanis, a great way to draw a bunch of cards. Deadeye Navigator, so this is the only non-wizard card that we're actually playing as far as our creature slot. Really, to me, it's just an honorary wizard, especially in a deck like this where we're looking for those ETB effects, and it works amazingly. So yeah, auto-include. Then we've got a Galecaster Colossus, so the biggest wizard out there, I think. 5/6, 5 colors, 2 blue. Tap an untapped wizard you control, return target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand. So really powerful interaction there. Yeah, overall, just really cool. And then we're getting to our artifacts here. We've got a Soul Ring, of course. A Sapphire Medallion. Thought Vessel. Basalt Monolith. There is a way to go infinite with this, of course, and make infinite colorless mana. Cloudstone Curio. Great way to bounce our wizards back to our hand that we've used their ETBs on and then replay them, so kind of crucial. As I was talking about with the Trophy Mage, this is probably one of our bigger targets. This and the next card, Crystal Shard, so another way to bounce our wizards back to our hand, because that's the only thing I'm really worried about, is having the fuel to continue to trigger Naban's ability. Extra Planar Lens, another great target. And then we've got a Panharmonicon. Of course, we want to trigger everything all the time, so having this on the board is another amazing way. Plus, the two of them together is just brutal. Gilded Lotus, a way to make colored mana. Allhammer's Archive. Paradox Engine, of course. Vanquisher's Banner. I just thought this was kind of fun to include in this tribal deck. We're not too concerned about the +1/+1, but we really want to draw cards every time we cast a creature spell of the chosen type, so that's really important. Cage Sun. Doubling up mana is always good, especially in a mono blue deck. The Immortal Sun, which I'm excited to play with. I specifically left Planeswalkers out of this deck just so I could feel like I could run this safely. I love all the effects on this card. I mean, shutting down other people's Planeswalkers is really important, plus the spells you cast cost 1 colorless less is also really good, and then drawing extra cards is always amazing. So overall, this is a powerhouse card as long as you're not running Planeswalkers. And then we're getting to our enchantments here. Of course, we've got a power artifact to go with our Basalt Monolith. We've got a Intruder Alarm. So this is one of those kind of combinations that we want to run into with like our Wizard Lord, where we're exiling 5 cards from our opponent's libraries. So great way would be to have this and like something like Paradox Engine and like that guy and just a whole bunch of stuff to untap and retap and untap and cast and blah 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 and continue through the motions. Then I've got a Kindred Discovery, another good tribal card. Then we've got the Mirari Conjecture. So if you haven't seen this one yet, it's a brand new card from Dominaria. It's the part of the Saga cycle. So our first Saga is return target instant card from your graveyard to your hand, something we're going to want to do. Number 2 is return target sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand, something we're also going to want to do. And then number 3 is until end of turn, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it, you may choose new targets for the copy. So an amazing ability. Once again, we are running a lot of like take extra turns or just really kind of crazy draw cards, so we want to double up on those. Now we'll break into our instant speed spells here. Of course, we've got good old Counterspell. No reason not to run this. Cyclonic Rift, of course, the best board wipe ever printed. Negate, another really good Counterspell. I know some people argue about the merits of this card, but I absolutely love it. In Commander, it's amazing. It gets rid of most everything that you want it to get rid of. Really, in Commander, creatures aren't always our biggest threat, and we can usually deal with those in other ways. Negating like an Omniscience or something like that always feels good, so just an amazing card. Swan Song could be argued to be in this space as well. Reality Shift, really good blue removal. Twin Cast, I love doing like explosive vegetation twin cast. That's the best thing in the world, really. Blue Sun Zenith, one of our biggest ways either to mill our opponents out or if we want to mill ourselves out, so keep that in mind. Capsize, with buyback, of course. Disallow, an amazing counterspell. This essentially does everything we want it to do, like countering activated and triggered abilities and spells is just, yeah, it's over the top. It's got to be one of the best for Commander or even just other formats. It's just so good. Cryptic Command, another one of those amazing counterspells. We're in mono blue, guys. Insidious Will, another really good modal counterspell. Turnabout, like I said earlier, we're trying to get into a loop where we can just continually cast this, so having something like Archaeomancer and Deadeye Navigator and then this in the graveyard and just continue to cast it, that could be one of our ways to win the game, so there's that. Now we've got Mystic Confluence, of course, one of the better blue cards that's been printed in the last couple of years, in my opinion, in the Commander product. It's an overall powerhouse card. If you haven't gotten your copies, pick them up. I continually buy this card. I don't even think I have enough for them, and I think of them, and I think I have like 5 or 6 at this point. So yeah, look out for this one. Then we've got our sorceries. We got a Call to Mind, of course. Getting our instants and sorceries back from the graveyard is always good. And we've got Pull from the Deep. So this is a one-time version of the card previously, but it does get you an instant and sorcery card. So sometimes it can dig you out of a hole and find you exactly what you need. Then we'll get into Time Warp, of course, one of our extra turn spells. And then Time Stretch. So previously I had put the new extra turn card from Dominaria in here, but it does exile, so that's not ideal for Commander, especially for what we're trying to do. So I ended up taking it out and just including these two. I know a lot of people are just look at Time Stretch's mana costs and it's just like, why are you running that? But trust me, it's so good. It's so powerful. I mean, being able to loop this once again with like Deadeye Navigator and Archaeomancer or whatever you need to do is just, it's so amazing. So trust me on that one. Then we've got our lands. Of course, Cavernous Souls. We are running a tribal deck, so this just makes sense. Nykthos. Reliquary Tower, of course. Riptide Laboratory. So this is another one of our key cards to find. Once again, as I talked about before, being able to bounce our wizards back to our hand and play them again is really what I'm after. So having a card like this as a essentially spell land is amazing. So you want to find this as soon as you can. You want to, you know, continue to have it. So watch out for those wastelands and whatnot. Then we've got a Ilaria West, and this is pretty much to find Riptide Laboratory, or if we need to, Reliquary Tower, depending on what we're going for, or Cavern of Souls, or really anything. Transmute is a very interesting ability. I know a lot of people really misunderstand it, but it actually works really well in Commander. You know, tutoring of any type is just good, so the fact that you can only find things that cast for 0 with this, or, you know, play for 0 with this, doesn't really matter. We're looking for very specific lands, and it really matters. Plus, you know, he's probably, you know, this wizard probably belongs in Ilaria, so it's just makes sense theme-wise as well. And then the rest is islands. So anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this deck tech as always, and look forward to the rest. We have so many Dominaria deck techs to do, so we'll be here for a while doing these. So anyway, with that, once again, enjoy, and we will see you guys next time.